We're going to program some simple settings for a UV-5R radio. In the CHIRP software that we get from Dan's Planet, we're going to go from our memories to our settings and start with basic settings. Squelch, these are the default settings unless I've accidentally changed them. The squelch at 2 is a little bit low. I would start at 5. You could move up or down from there. The battery saver, if you're scanning, may cut off a little bit of the beginning of transmissions. We're going to turn it off. You might experiment with that to see if it really does save you any battery power. Voice operated transmit, we're going to turn that off. We can always turn that on from the radio. Backlight timeout, let's give you a little bit more just for fun. We of course do want to watch both the display A and the display B. Remember that it doesn't actually listen to both at the same time. It scans both at the same time, but if one starts transmitting, it stops listening to the other. You may leave your button beeps on while getting used to the radio, but if you're going beep, beep, beep every time you hit a key, it's going to be a little tedious. So some of the settings we're going to ignore a little bit, and then if you get a little bit more into it, you can look up what the DTMF and the ANI settings do, but for now we're going to turn them off. While you're scanning, you have 3 choices. What happens after your radio finds a transmission and stops? It can either continue after a certain amount of time, it's a few seconds, maybe 5. You can continue scanning after the transmission ends, or you can stop scanning completely once it finds a transmission. That's going to be a personal preference. So we're going to avoid DTMF, ANI, push to talk, other than to just turn them off. Typically, I have my display mode A set to frequency and my display mode B set, my display mode A set to the name and the display mode B set to frequency because I want to know what I've called the channel or the memory slot, and I want to know what frequency is on that memory slot in case I need to tell somebody what frequency I'm on. And if it just says, you know, I'm on this repeater or FRS1, I want to be able to tell people what the frequency for FRS1 is by changing it to memory slot 1 on display mode B so I can see 4625625. You may want your key lock on, and you have dual watch transmit priority. This will change which display you're transmitting on. If you have it set to off, you will only transmit on the display that you have chosen. You can set it differently to do that, but I find that just for starting out, I would want to have manual control of which frequency I'm transmitting on. So in your advanced settings, you may or may not want the alarm to be able to accidentally be turned on or off. And here we've got we got a message that we can put. That's what's going to display when I turn on the radio. I might make a note to myself about which file name I've uploaded onto that radio, which version. Right here, it gives a software limit to the frequencies that I can reach. I'm gonna shoot for the stars and see how low I can go on here and expand what I can do. 130. Let's see, I want to go to the 900. 179. Here I want to go to 350. 400. And here I want to go to 900 again. That way it expands. If I find a frequency I want to listen to, I can program them in now. I'm not sure what it wants about this display A and B. I run mine on A. I'm not sure how I got there. Right after you program your radio, it's going to start out on display A on, let's say, your memory slot 1 and memory slot 2. Your VFO is also going to default to a frequency. I might put it on something that doesn't seem to have a lot of chatter on the frequency. This may or may not have chatter in your area, but sometimes I want it to just default to that in case I have to reprogram it again. It's not going to accidentally go onto a frequency with chatter. This right here, if you're not getting into manually programming repeaters, I don't see a reason to mess with many of these. The tuning step should probably be at 12.5 because if you're manually programming in frequencies, some of those frequencies are going to need that little 0.5 at the end that it will default to because of this tuning step here, which is a number that you can't program in manually. So this is actually kind of a key important, the 12.5. Find your favorite radio station. Your radio will default to this, which is nice when you're putting a bunch of radios out. If you can all switch to the FM listening, and you can be the DJ by choosing which radio station you'd like everyone to listen to in downtime. The good thing is that if there's a transmission on whatever frequency you have chosen to display on display A, it'll interrupt the FM radio broadcast and let you hear that transmission. When they're done transmitting, after a few second pause, maybe a 5-second pause, it'll go back to FM radio listening. All right, don't worry about these for the simple version, and that's it. If this is your last step, you can upload to radio, choosing your correct port, and then it'll give you, instead of this error, it will give you the steps for what you do. Make sure your volume is turned all the way up, and again, make sure that you are on a frequency that has zero chatter or static.